Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Tuesday takeaway. And today's topics how your refund is about to be a shock, talking about your tax refund, and also how Americans are falling into more debt and how their savings are at an all-time low. Let's jump into it. I was reading some very interesting articles regarding the upcoming tax return and basically what is to be expected for my clients and also people who watch my videos. So we'll dive into it. There's going to be a whiplash. We call it the refund shock or the refund whiplash. It really has to do with a lot of tax benefits put into place as of last year to combat the pandemic. And basically, they provided a lot bigger credits, more credits, stimulus money, needing to really just prop it up. The thanks to the pandemic relief package that was issued by the Trump administration, but especially during the first year of the Biden administration, many Americans got big tax refunds, bigger than the average they've seen before pre-pandemic. But 2 years of this don't count it to repeat itself. The average refund in 2021 was well over 3,000, more than 15% above the average pre-pandemic level. Um, but you should be thinking, well, now that we're kind of out of the pandemic, what's going to happen? Well, here's the three credits that are going away, and what you will definitely see on your tax return this year. Let's start off with the child tax credit. That went up to 3,600 last year, and that was fully refundable. Now it's back to 2,000. The dependent care credit, which would up to 8,000, is now back to 2,100. While earned income tax credit payers without children, that went from 1,500 to 500. So those are three areas with major drops in them. Another credit loss is for unitemized returns or charitable tax donations. Last year, as part of the pandemic package, they put into place special deductions above the line if you don't itemize. And that was about 300 per person. Wow, that's all gone. Now, with only about a month away until the tax season hits, is there anything as us consumers we can do to prop up our tax returns? Probably not. And this goes into our next segment, kind of regarding what is happening with the American consumer, how these tax returns is going to be very not beneficial for them, and how it is creating worry in my head. So credit card balances jumped 15% highest annual leap in over 20 years as Americans fall deeper into debt. Now, let's think about that for a minute. Why are Americans falling deeper into debt? Well, you have the cost of high inflation, gas, all that stuff is really eroding at their purchasing power. So they're putting it on their cards. Now, how long are they keeping these balances for? Well, that's another scary part. Not only are the credit card balances back to pre-pandemic levels, but consumers are also carrying these balances for a longer period. And what happens when you can, keep this debt for long periods of time in a high interest rate environment that keeps raising, you're just going to end up owing more and more money, and eventually you cannot get back to that like break-even point. So that's worrying. Among the Americans who are carrying credit card debt from month to month, 60% have been in credit card debt for the last year. Interesting, right? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about personal income versus spending. And this was an October report issued by the Fed. And basically, we see the common trend, that income has rose by, seventh of a 10%, while spending has rose about 1% more. So what we're seeing is that consumers' income is not keeping up with their spending. And that's why we're seeing these credit card balances jump. But why are people using their credit cards if they know the interest rates are rising? That's another question. It should be worrying us. And here's our next slide to kind of demonstrate what's going on. Every time we have in blue, of course, is the CPI, and then in red is the hour earnings average for production and non-supervisory employees. And every time we see a rise in high inflation, at the peak tip of inflation, we see earnings go way down, like we see right here between the 1980s and 1985s. We also see in the 1990s, high inflation, earnings go down. So we're going to see this trend constantly there for a couple times. And basically, what is discouraging is that, yes, we may be at our highest point for inflation, but these earnings are coming down and inflation is still high. So how are we going to combat them? Or what is the major risk that us as a U.S. consumer face? Well, when we look at the personal savings rate, in the United States, it is at a multi-decade low. That is why we're seeing these credit card balances as more Americans can't keep up with inflation because they don't have the money to do it. They're not saving money. And then I also wanted to show you the real disposable. So this is, think about this as after, a consumer pays all its, expenses for the month, cost of living, food, clothes, etc. What do they have left at the end of the day for goods and services and other means? Well, they're negative. We haven't seen this since 2015. And this is due to because one, the interest rates are going up, the economy is taking a turn, but the American people do not have enough money in their bank account in the event that this does hit the fan. This is a scary problem. So we'll definitely see unearned income go down with higher rates as the economy starts to slow. We're going to see the unemployment rise, like I suspect. If you watch my last videos, you understand all about that. So hopefully you got a little bit about that. I think that's pretty important to discuss, especially regarding these tax returns, the holiday season, people buying gifts. And if they're expecting a big tax return like they got in the past couple of years, I would, change my mind about that because they're in for a rude awakening. We're seeing more people who would use those tax returns to maybe close off some credit card debt. Unlikely this year. So what we're seeing is kind of these spiral effects, these domino effects, that the U.S. consumer is really low on savings and reserves, and it's a warning sign that the economy it could be at a critical place. But anyways, just want to let you know. Thank you so much for watching these videos, and as always, if you have any suggestions or want me to fill something out or give you some advice, please let me know. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful Tuesday.